Hey, welcome back. We are continuing on with our How to Grow series. Like I said, it's really beneficial, especially when I'm learning, to sort of just plug into one individual thing at a time and sort of understand how that specific plant or flower likes to grow. So today we are learning about snapdragons, and these are by far one of the plants I would never not plant. They have perennialized a little bit in my yard, in my garden, but I don't want to rely on that. I want to make sure that I have snapdragons every single year. So I have gotten 2 years out of some snapdragons. We will see if they return for a third year. But like I said, I want to make sure I always am growing snapdragons. So I'm going to be starting more today. These are new varieties that I'm very excited to try as well and share with you. So snapdragons are a wonderful cut flower. They come in many different colors, many different varieties, many sizes and shapes. Beautiful variety within that, but it is very important to read the backs of your seed packets to make sure you are getting a cut flower variety if that's what you want. They do come in more compact dwarf varieties, which would be great for a container or the front of your garden bed. But these specifically I'm growing because I want them for cut flowers. So that means that they're going to be giving me a tall stem. So within snapdragons, there are different groups. There are 4 different groups we're talking about today. And this is new. And this is new to me. I had no idea when I was growing my first year. I just thought they were a hot summer annual that bloomed all year. But no, they do peter out a little bit during the hot season, depending on what group you are growing. So that's just something to be aware. Make sure you're reading your seed packet to see what time they typically bloom and what temperatures they prefer to bloom in. So like I said, today I'm sharing with you some new varieties that I have, new seeds that I'm growing today, but I have grown some of these in the past. I'll be sharing my experience with you as well. Some of the more popular groups within the snapdragon category are Chantilly, Madame Butterfly, Potomac, Rocket, Costa. Beautiful options, but like I said, they all have different sizes and shapes and usually colors as well. So we are categorizing groups 1 through 4, meaning when they bloom. So group 1 would be the earliest bloomers. They prefer that spring temperature to start blooming, whereas groups 3 and 4 prefer the hotter weather and they might be more of a productive crop in the summer months. So like I said, group 2, I have some rockets. So this would be a later spring, early summer variety for group 2. I have Rocket Mix 1, and I've got 2 packets of those. And then I have Madame Butterfly and Madame Butterfly Ivory, and these are both groups 3 or 4. So these are better tolerators of the hot summer months. So I'm hopeful that having this variety will allow me to have snapdragons almost all season long, which is great. And then I've got a Potomac, which is a group 3. Again, that's more of a heat tolerant snapdragon. And this is the custom mix. So these are quite large seed packets. I only have 1 tray started, but I will be starting probably more than that. This tray fits 120 little soil blocks. You can see they're very small, very efficient way of growing seeds, but I'll have to make some more of these. Okay, so let's start seeding these. Snapdragons are super easy to germinate. They germinate very fast, usually 7 to 10 days, and you're going to see some growth out of these. They do not need heat to germinate. I'm growing them in my cold basement, so it's definitely not a requirement to have heat for these. They actually don't even prefer it. They just need light. And snapdragon seeds are so small, I usually am just sprinkling them on the surface, which is known as broadcast sowing. And I'm usually getting more than 1 snapdragon per block. You can do 3 different things. You can thin them out and remove the less healthy plant. You can thin them out and plant that extra plant very gently into soil. Or third, which is what I do, I just leave it because snapdragons don't seem to be bothered by being grown too closely together. So typically when I'm planting these out in May, 1 block will have more than 1 plant, and they seem to do fine with that. Snapdragons are a cut and come again plant, which means that they will benefit from pinching. Pinching is just waiting until each plant has about 3 or 4 leaves and you are snipping the top of that plant to encourage branching. It is optional, but it will produce a bushier plant. I would recommend pinching half of your plants so that half of your plants are going to be really bushy and starting on growing more and more shoots in that 1 plant. And then the other half that hasn't been pinched are going to give you blooms a little bit earlier than the ones have been pinched. So there's some pros and cons to both. The pinched plants will be prolonged in blooming, but will give you more stems, whereas the unpinched plant will bloom a little bit sooner, and as the season progresses, it will get bushier as it goes, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's start sowing these ones. This is the Potomac Custom Mix. I have quite a few seeds of these, I think 250. I do find that Snapdragon seeds are fine to keep over a number of years. And if you can see that, they are tiny, 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 almost like poppy seeds. Very small. Snapdragon seeds are also not very expensive. So I find if I am broadcast sowing and I'm using 200 seeds on a 120 block tray, that's fine for me because I'm still getting quite a few plants on there and it is just so much easier. So as you can see, I'm just slowly pinching and sowing my seeds as evenly as possible, knowing that it's not going to be perfect. But like I said, generally you can transplant most seedlings if you're very gentle. All right, there is the label for those. And like I said, most seeds want light to germinate, but the vermiculite does not block them too much. The light can usually get through with a light dusting. And then I have some saran wrap that I've used previously that will act as a humidity dome. Until I see leaves, I will wait to remove this, making sure that they are at least 80% of the tray has germinated. That's usually when I take off the plastic. So like I said, no heat to germinate, just light. And you're gonna see some cotyledons, which are the first set of leaves. You will see them in about 7 to 10 days. Okay, I made some more of my trays for soil blocking. We're gonna continue to sow all of these. There are some more of those tiny, tiny little seeds. And like I said, broadcast sowing seems to give me the best results. They are fine growing close together, at least that has been my experience. And for spacing these plants too, I would say you can push the envelope, no pun intended. The back of the envelope will tell you that they want at least 6 inches in spacing, but I find that they actually tolerate being crowded, and it actually encourages the stems to grow quite tall and quite strong when they are forced to kind of grow in closer conditions. And like I said, Snapdragons are a prolific bloomer. You will get at least 8 to 10 blooms per plant during the growing season. They are a beautiful, beautiful option for bouquets. Snapdragons are not deer resistant though. I did plant these in our flower farm before we had our deer fence completed around our flower farm, and the deer did enjoy these as a buffet. So use caution where you are planting these. Okay, so there's the label for those, and a little bit of vermiculite. Okay, the next one, Madame Butterfly Ivory. And I should say that there are other methods of sowing these seeds. For the more precise gardener, taking a wet or moist toothpick just at the end, it is moist, and dipping it into the seeds will allow you to sort of place them one by one if you are more of an exact, like I said, or precise gardener. I find that broadcast sowing my snaps has always done well. Like I said, they tolerate or even benefit from some crowding, in my experience. But of course, that is just my experience from one gardener to another. The beautiful thing is there are many ways to do these things, and we have to find what is best for us. Okay, there is another one done. Okay, my rocket mix. Like I said, this is a group 2. I've grown rocket before, not really knowing about the groups, so it was interesting to see how they were growing at different times. Things just make so much more sense once you understand them, isn't that right? All right, there we are. I have done about 400 to 500 Snapdragons today. So I'm out of space on my grow shelf. I have to do some rearranging, so I'll do that later. But like I said, we are keeping the plastic or humidity dome on until we see their first set of leaves. Once you see that, you will remove the plastic, make sure they are adequately watered, not too much, not too little. And I even make sure that I have a fan in here as well, just to make sure that they're getting that sort of mimic of the wind, strengthening their stems. And it really helps with fungus gnats and different flies and that type of thing as well. Fertilization will happen when I see, I would say, 3 sets of true leaves. I will be doing a once a week fish emulsion fertilizer, which I typically do for all of my seedlings. And that is pretty much it. Definitely worthwhile time spent today. So I will be sure to take you along when I'm pinching these. Like I said, I'm probably going to be pinching half of these so that I can get them bushier, and the other half letting them bloom so I can get sort of a succession bloom time, if that makes sense. Harvesting for Snapdragons is quite simple as well. You're wanting to make sure that anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3 of the blooms have opened to make sure you're getting a long vase life, almost up to 2 weeks. I would say 7 to 10 days. I would say your vase life is going to be 10 to 12 days if you are harvesting them at the correct time, once 1/4 or 1/3 of those florets have opened. They pair well with so many beautiful colors. Of course, like I said, they add that spike element to your bouquets. They are just a beautiful, beautiful addition to grow in your garden, especially for bouquets, in my opinion. Let me know what some of your favorite Snapdragons are, or if you've never grown them before. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.